Hi, Don Action Jackson here. I'm ready to show you the basics of recording in Adobe Audition today. We'll kind of navigate you around the system a little bit and recording the very basic of files, which is a waveform. So we'll go ahead here. This will also get you set up for that first assignment doing the 7-Eleven commercial. You'll see on the screen the basic Adobe Audition screen with four main panels for you to pay attention to. This one here has your files in it. This one here will show you how long the commercial is. No excuses for it not to be 30 seconds long, which is the length of this first spot. And here is where you're going to do all the work in Adobe Audition, the editor section. Once we put the waveform screen up there, we'll do our editing. And then down here, we'll make sure that the volume levels are not too loud or too soft. That's where that's going to happen. So up here, you'll see waveform and multitrack. Those are the two basic ways to record and edit in Adobe Audition. We're going to start with the very basic of waveforms here. That's the basics of files, because those waveforms eventually are going to populate the multitrack. We'll show you that later. But right now, you'll see waveform here. As a matter of fact, if we're going to start a new waveform, then that's one of the ways to do it. If you click on waveform, it'll give you this window here, which is very, very important. The main way to get to the waveform is to go to File, New, and Audio File right there, and it'll do that. You'll notice when I click on File and New, you'll see the keyboard shortcut, Control-Shift-N, which if I do this here, there it is again. If I want to hit Record here on this basic screen, it would also give me that to start as well. So there's like 4 different ways to get into your first new audio file on Adobe Audition. It gives you a lot of different ways because people like to work different ways. Their workflow's different. So now I have the window open, and let me take a second to let you know that when you're dealing with these windows, that they become more consequential as we go, because down the line, it's going to determine where your file goes in the system, and you want to make sure it's going to your folder. Adobe Audition is always trying to send it to the last folder it always sends it to. So start here and start getting used to these windows and filling them out properly. I'm going to put my name in here for file. Also going to put the name of the project that we're working on, which is 7-Eleven. It's a 7-Eleven commercial. You always want to put the name of the client or the project there. And then after that, what is this to the file? What is this to the overall project, I should say? And that would be a voiceover. Anything that you have your voice on is your voiceover. So we'll put VO there for voiceover short. Now, next down here, we've got the sample rate, which for a project like this, becoming an MP3, let's make it 44,100. Okay, that's usually good. You can do 48,000, but for these projects, I suggest 44,100. And then the channels here, stereo, that's good. You can also do a voiceover in mono, but, you know, for consistency's sake, let's just put this in stereo. And bit depth, 32 float, that is definitely the most flexible for your waveform. If you have it turned up too loud, it's not going to have all kinds of distortion problems, even though you should watch where the volume is. If it gets a little too hot, you're still not going to ruin the file completely. Okay, let's click OK here. And you'll see it start to record already. It's recording my waveform. This is a visual representation of my voice. So I'm just giving you a little bit of something for us to work with here, and then we'll hit stop. Now, when I hit stop on here, it will automatically highlight the screen, you'll notice. That's what a highlight looks like in Adobe Audition waveform. And if I click anywhere on the screen, the highlight will go away. If I left click and slide and highlight there, it'll just highlight a portion of it. If I double click on the screen, it'll highlight all of it. And the reason for that is the default. When you're doing projects and you hear something that you don't like or you didn't like that take, it automatically puts it in highlight so that you can click on delete like I did on my keyboard just there, and it all goes away. Now, don't ever worry about deleting something in Adobe Audition, because you have a way to get it back, which is very simple. Control-Z on the keyboard will get it back. Or if I delete it and I want to get it back, I can go up to edit here, and it says right there, undo, delete audio. Adobe Audition keeps an entire history of what you do the whole time that you're logged in. So you can go back as many times as you need to get to whatever it is you need. So undo, delete audio there. I can go back and do it again It says undo record, which was the next thing that I did. So if I wanted to do that, then do that. Now you can also move forward. You can redo record by hitting Control Shift Z or clicking on that. If I hit Control Shift Z, it'll take me back to when I deleted it. You see how that works? So Control Z will get me there. And you can easily highlight things and delete them in sections here. So if I have a breath or a pause or something that I need to get, or a mistake, I can highlight this and get rid of it. If I want to get rid of that word there, I'm highlighting it. I can right click here and go to delete if I want to do it that way, or I can do it on my keyboard. I'm simply clicking the delete button and it goes away like that. So that's the basics of doing things here for a project like this one, because that's what you're going to do. You're going to actually be recording it and then deleting the breaths and sharpening your recording up like that. So the next thing I should show you is how to set your levels, your recording levels down here. Very important stuff. We're going to delete the whole area here and show you here. I'll hit record and you'll see these levels here, the green, the yellow, and then you'll see it go into the red. Now, green is fine, but it's not quite loud enough. You want to get your levels so that it's popping into the yellow area here most of the time, if not the whole time. And see it tickling into the red, that's okay, but you want to try. I'm going to turn my microphone down just a little bit so that it's not doing that as much. In case my voice goes up like that, then it doesn't go into the red. If it's heavily in the red, then it gets very distorted, and you can hear that sounds terrible. And if I play that back, it sounds even worse. Then it gets very distorted, and then you can't fix that. If I highlight that and turn it down like this, you'll hear. Then it gets very distorted, and you can hear. I still can't fix that. I've turned it down, but it's still distorted there, because once you have distorted audio, you can't fix it. There are ways to maybe try to make it a little bit better, but you cannot completely fix it. If the volume's too low, you can certainly do that. Watch, if I turn it down here and I record it in the green really low like that, and then I'll turn my volume up for you. But here you'll notice it's not that loud. You'll see the record it in the green really low like. I can actually turn the volume up in Audition and it's fine then. I'll highlight this area right here. And here is something you'll see. It defaults, I think, on the screen most of the time. It's called the heads up tool technically, or adjust amplitude. It's basically a volume control that you can click on to turn the volume up and down on a certain area. And once I highlight that, it'll only turn it up and down there. If I don't have it highlighted, then it'll turn the whole thing up and down as well. But you'll notice that area that was recorded low, and I record it in the green really low like that. See, it sounds fine now. So you can fix volume that's too low in the green, but in the yellow, it should be just right. If it's in the red and it's buried in the red, red is dead. Yes, my friend Sean, who teaches in Columbus, red is dead. Yellow is hello, is what he says. So, hey, shout out to my man, Sean. So we've set our levels here. Now, we're going to delete this area and we're going to record the script. Now we know our way around multi-track a little bit, okay? So the script is going to be for 7-Eleven. And I always say, let me get something. We'll pretend this is my script here, okay? And I want to take my script and I want to spend some time with it, because when you're recording something in Adobe Audition, you want to make sure that you're familiar with it, that it sounds natural. It doesn't sound like you're reading it. If it does sound like you're reading it, no one's going to pay attention to you. And you want to make sure that it sounds like it's coming out of your mouth, like you're talking, like you're having a conversation with the listener on the other side of the microphone. And you want to picture him or her, right? This 7-Eleven commercial is basically about somebody who is stuck in the kitchen, who has no food because they didn't go shopping that week, and they're looking for something to eat at 2 o'clock in the morning. Well, picture that person now. Picture them in their pajamas, roaming around the kitchen, trying to get that food that they desperately need so badly. So what are they going to do? Well, you have the solution for them. You tell them to go to 7-Eleven And this is why. And that's where your convincibility is important. And that only happens if you know the script cold. And you can still use it to reference, certainly. I'm not saying that you should take the script away and memorize it word for word, but you should go through it a number of times so that it's in your head already, at least 4 or 5 times, if not more. Some people it takes 10, some people it takes 20, some people it takes 4 or 5 times, depending on, your retention level. So just take the script and walk through it. And so the script says, so it's 2 a.m. and you're starving. I'm just going through it to get it in my head. Nothing in the fridge, nothing in the cupboards. You don't even have dog biscuits hanging around. You think about cooking, blah, blah, blah. I go through the whole thing. And then I start to work through it, okay? So it's 2 a.m. and you're starving. Nothing in the fridge, nothing in the cupboard, nothing in the fridge, nothing in the, I work it out so that I know how I'm going to say it. And again, by doing that, it's getting into my head so that to the point where I'm really, really memorizing it to the point it's driving me crazy because I know it so well. That's where you need to be. Then you take the script and you put it in front of you, put it down here where you can look at it. Okay. Right near and make sure it's straight up this way. All right. Not over here, so that you're pulling your mouth off the microphone. As far as the microphone is concerned, you'll notice that the microphone is not directly in front of my face like this, so every P that I say, every B that I say is going through the microphone quite like that. You're hearing my breath and everything. I don't want that. I want the microphone to catch my speech, and I'll pull this up just a little bit. Lift it up just a little bit here. But I want it to the side of my mouth. I don't want it right in front. They call this off axis. They call this on axis because it's right directly. We learned this in school, right? And the axis going through the earth. Well, right there, axis. Here, it's over to the side. So the P's and the B's and everything are going this way. They're called vocal plosives, and you don't want them going directly into the microphone because you don't want that sound. It's very distracting, and I hear a lot of podcasts doing that, and that's because they're talking directly into the microphone. That's their microphone technique, and for most microphones, it's better to turn it to the side, unless you have this really massive, and I do have a pop filter here. I do have that. It helps a little bit, but really turning the microphone to the side and letting it catch your vocals coming through that way. Much better mic technique, more natural sounding mic technique. You don't want it too far away because then it sounds like you're across the room. You're further away across the room. Even that much is it's okay, but you hear a lot more room noise, right? This is not a treated room. So having it closer here gets rid of a lot of the room noise. So before you go to record, you want to make sure and set your level. Now, here's how you do that. You click on record, and you'll see your levels here, and they look right now. If they were too hot, let's say it was in the red, you want to slide the pot here. That's your slider. You want to slide that down to adjust the volume. So I would do that, turn it down, and keep talking. You just keep talking like I'm talking right now, just gibberish, but in your full voice. Check 1, 2 is kind of lame, but you can do that if you want. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, whatever. Just keep talking. Traffic was terrible in here. I was ready to kill somebody today. There it is. I can now say I'm nicely in the yellow. That's where you want to be. That's your sweet spot between -18 and -6 decibels right there. Now, you'll notice when I recorded here, this is a good thing to learn early on. You'll see these dots here and wonder, what is that? I just lost the screen. I lost everything. You really didn't. What happened was it zoomed in, and Adobe does this for some reason arbitrarily, and people don't know what it is. So you want to zoom out. The way you zoom out or zoom in Adobe Audition is using the scroll wheel on the mouse, and you'll notice everything is starting to get smaller and smaller, and that looks more like your waveform screen, but that's what happens. Now, here's another tip. Upper right-hand corner here, you'll see the zoom out full. Just click on it, and then you get that back. So that's really easy to do, but just know that that's a result of it being zoomed in all the way. Click here, and you get that back, or you can zoom in and out with the wheel on the mouse. That also is something that we'll be using more as we go to do some edits. All right, so now I'm going to move my script in front of me. I'm going to start reading the commercial, and we'll click on record here to start. So it's 2 in the morning and you're starving. Nothing in, excuse me. Nothing in the fridge, nothing in the cupboards. You don't even have dog biscuits hanging around. You think about cooking, but then you remember the 3-alarm fire you started last time you tried using the stove. You don't want to do that again, because I did about half of the script there. So on Adobe Audition, you'll notice the minute that I hit stop down here, it gave me the highlight screen. So I just click on here. A couple more things about the way the screen works. Your playhead is this red line going across. You probably noticed if I start it, and a great shortcut on the keyboard, by the way, to stop and start is to click the space bar, and you'll always use that. Okay, now, so I'm going to have to edit this. There were a couple of mistakes in there that needed to be fixed. You'll see here the playhead as it was recording, the red playhead that it goes back and forth. It also is the record head. You can click anywhere on the screen and it'll show up there as well. You don't need to go fast forward or rewind. It takes too long. Just click and it'll pop up there. You can also move it manually by clicking on the blue dot at the top of it and just slide your mouse back and forth, and it'll do that for you. So I want it at the very beginning. Clicking this button will get you there. Move playhead to previous, which would be at the very beginning for here. If you had markers in here, and I'll show you how to make those as we go, then it'll move to each marker. Right now, I want to get rid of this dead space here. So what I want to do is zoom in. To zoom in, you use the wheel on the mouse right here. Use that little scroll wheel there and zoom in. Wherever you have the cursor is where it's going to zoom to. So now here's the beginning of the audio. I want to get the very beginning of that audio. Left click and slide over to the left to highlight, and then zoom out a little bit to have perspective here, and click backspace or delete to delete that part of it. So the first thing I hear when I click on play, so it's 2 in the morning is me doing that, right, that first bit of audio. All right, so let's listen and see where we're going to need to edit here. I'm going to zoom out with the wheel on my mouse and hit play. So it's 2 in the morning and you're starving. Nothing in, excuse me. Nothing in the fridge, nothing, like my award-winning cough there. So let's get rid of that. I'm going to go here with the cursor and zoom in with the wheel on the mouse here, and you'll notice that getting bigger on the screen. Now, from eyeballing this and maybe going back here and playing it again, him clicking on the space bar now, you're starving. Nothing in, excuse me. So it's from here that I want to go to, and we know that that's the next good piece of audio. And you'll notice a breath there. You hearing that? Okay, so we want to get rid of that, as well as this cough. So I'm going to go from here, zoom in a little bit, and then slide the cursor over here using the mouse, sliding it over, left clicking, and all the way over here. Now you'll notice I'm not going all the way over. I'm not going right to the next piece of audio. And the reason for that is this is a conversational commercial. So we don't want to have real jerky edits here sounding like edits. We want it to sound natural. So I'm going to give it a little bit of space, then click delete on the keyboard like that. And now go back a little bit. You always want to go back and listen to the edit before you move on to the next one. You don't want to edit and cut, and then move on, and then move on. You don't want to do that, because what happens is you'll inevitably find an edit that is bad. So you're starving. Nothing in the fridge. See, that sounds natural. The edit was right there. We'll go back and listen to it again. And you're starving. Nothing in the fridge, nothing in the cupboards. You don't even have. So you got that little noise there, smacking the lips. So let's zoom in and get rid of that. Again, I'm going to go from here to here, not here to here. You don't want to do that. That's too close. So you'll want to leave a little space. There you go. Now hit delete on the keyboard. Go back and listen to the edit. Nothing in the cupboards. You don't even have dog biscuits hanging around. You think about cooking. So there's a bit of a pause there. We need to get rid of that. Dead space and breaths. People don't breathe on commercials anymore. They just don't, because every second counts. A 30-second commercial costs different than a 60-second, than a 15-second on a radio station. So they want to jam in as much information as possible. And you cannot have breaths in there. Even if this was a small space with breath, we'd want to get rid of the breath part. So I'm doing like I did before, highlighted this by left-clicking the mouse and sliding it over, and you'll see a little bit of space on both sides. Click delete, zoom out, go back, and listen. Biscuits hanging around. You think about cooking, but then you remember the three. Bit of a pause there. I want to get rid of some of that. So highlight there and delete. Go back. About cooking, but then you remember the 3-alarm fire you... That's the edit right there. Cooking. But then you remember the 3-alarm fire you started last time you tried using the stove. You don't want to do that again. So smacking the lips and breath, swallowing a little bit like I'm doing now, you're going to zoom in and get rid of that. So let's go here to here. Again, a little space on both sides, highlighting that with the mouse, and then clicking delete. Zooming out with the wheel on the mouse and going back. Tried using the stove. You don't want to do that again. All right, so now we'll see there's some dead air here. So I'm going to zoom in nice and tight. Find that section there and highlight, delete that. And zoom out. Now let's listen to the whole thing. So it's 2 in the morning and you're starving. Nothing in the fridge, nothing in the cupboards. You don't even have dog biscuits hanging around. You think about cooking, but then you remember the 3-alarm fire you started last time you tried using the stove. You don't want to do that again. And there you go. I got rid of all the mistakes. And this is something that I need to impart to you. You probably listen to commercials and to things all the time, and it feels like that announcer is getting from beginning to end, and they aren't. A lot of times they make mistakes and they need to either stop or reassess, or they cough or they breathe or they do something that is taboo. Yes, breathing is taboo. But, in most cases, people need to swallow. People need to breathe. Maybe take a bit of water or something like that. They may have a tickle in their throat. They may make a mistake in reading it. That any number of things can happen. You have the power to edit. You don't need to go back to the beginning and start over again and try to get this in one fell swoop. It doesn't have to happen that way. I just need to remind you of that. You can do this a couple of lines at a time. You don't need to do the whole thing at once. You can do a couple of lines and pause. I'll show you that afterwards, but let's go ahead and take a look at the final project here. I'm going to save this. So I'm going to go to File and go to Save As, and click here, and you'll see what you typed in earlier, Don 711 VO. So let's get rid of VO because the client doesn't know anything about VO or voiceover. That's for you. So you maybe change that to commercial or whatever makes perfect sense. Sometimes the clients need a date. So we'll do 05. Today is the 15th, 2023. We'll put that there. Next thing is really important. The location. Where is this going? On your computer, Adobe Audition tries to send it to the last folder that you sent it to because you may normally send things there, and it's saving you a lot of time, and it's a great thing on your personal computer. But at the school, it's also trying to do the same thing. And if somebody had used the file, Gina used the file 2 hours ago, used the Adobe Audition 2 hours ago and sent it to her file, you go to send it there. And don't click browse, but just go to OK. It's going to send it to Gina's file, and you're not going to know it. You're going to come back a couple of days later to look for it in your file and go, where the hell did it go? It went to Gina's file. That's what happened. So let's go to browse and make sure it goes to your file, not hers. So I'm going to go to Studios, which is where you find your files in Adobe, in the school computer in our network system. Go to your cohort. At the moment, mine would be 52 days. There's my name, Don Jackson, the folder I set up already. Double click in there, and then I don't have any folders in here. I'm going to create one. So I'm going to go right click on it and go down to New, and then up to Folder. And it's customizable now. I'm going to put my name. I'm going to put 711 rather, the name of the client, 7-Eleven, and click enter again, and save. I'm going to save my stuff there. Now, and it's also, you can double check here and make sure, yep, Studios 5.2, Don Jackson, 7-Eleven. Great. So format, this is also very important. All of the projects that you're sending to me are going to be in MP3. Adobe Audition automatically defaults to Waveform because for bigger projects, that's what gets used the most. But for smaller projects, about a fifth the size of the file, we're going to get just the same quality on a basic voiceover. So let's send it smaller, MP3. You must send it in MP3. If you send it to me in Waveform, I'm going to send you back a note saying, go and save as MP3. Sample type here is exactly what we put in, 44-100, stereo, 32-bit. You can change it if something gets changed by accident by clicking on that, and you have customizable for all of those. And then the format settings is basically the size of the MP3. 128 is perfect. 128 or higher is fine. Anything lower than 128, the quality degrades, and you don't want that. So 128 is the lowest digital level. We'll click OK, and we're good there. Double check and make sure all 5 of these are good, and especially this one and this one. And we're good. We're going where we need to go, and it's an MP3. Click OK. Now, if I go to my folder, you'll see there it is. I've created the 7-Eleven, and there's my commercial in MP3 form, which is great. We're going to leave that here because we're going to send it now. So let us go and send it in a Gmail or your Yahoo or your iCloud, whatever it is you have. I have my Gmail up here, and this is my personal one. I'm going to send it to djackson@beonair.com, which is my email here at the school that you're going to send all your projects to. But I'm the student now, so I'm going from my personal Gmail account, which is this, and I have it incognito because at the school, the computers are not going to know who you are if you're used to just going on your phone or your computer and then getting into your email without having to log in, as it were. It's already remembered you, and you don't have to type in the password. Here you do. So please make sure you know your password and make sure you have your phone with you when you go into the studio, because if you have those protocols, security protocols, where it checks on your phone, you're going to need it there. You'll need to walk all the way back down the hall. So make sure you have your phone with you and out on the counter here. You have to go looking for it. Click on next. I'm going to type my password in. And that will go through and then ask me if I want to do my two-step verification. And now on my computer, on my phone, I click on it and it says confirm whether or not I'm you, I guess. I'm trying to log in. And I click on yes once it comes up on my phone. It's taking a little second here. There we go. Yes, it's me. Now on the computer, it's add or confirm. Yes, that's my number there. I don't mind you seeing that. And that's my recovery email. That's the email that you're going to send it to. That's my other email that I'm using. So yes, D Jackson, how convenient. I didn't even have this set up like this. djackson@beonair.com. This is where you're sending your project to me. Now we're in my email. I'm going to compose here, and I'm going to send it to djackson@beonair.com. It auto-filled. A lot of them will do that in the studios. 7-Eleven commercial. And if for some reason you don't know how to attach a file, I'll show you how to do that. Very simple. Just click on the paperclip at the bottom. It'll take me to my computer screen, my files here. I'm going to go to Studios, 5.2 days, Don Jackson, double click, and then 7-Eleven, double click on Don 7-Eleven commercial, and there it is, populating. The other way to do this is that folder I had open here. You minimize it right next to it. You can drag and drop it, left clicking on the mouse and dragging it right in there. Either way, my 7-Eleven commercial is sent, and we're good. So we X out of that, X out of this, X out of that, and make sure and save this one final time to make sure, and it looks like it's saved already. But I'm going to Shift S as well, or Control S there, And now that is saved, so I can go ahead and X out of this as well. Untitled 3 I don't need. And there you have it. That's the way to get that first 7-Eleven commercial done, and a nice little introduction to Adobe Audition and how it works. So go back over this video and slow it down a little bit if you need to, but that is how you are going to be sending me your commercial, 7-Eleven, the first one, in Waveform in Adobe Audition. Have fun editing and producing.